welcome everybody. I know it's been a long time. I shouldn't have left you without a dope beat to step to. It's been a minute since I've done an alpha video. Thank you everyone for joining, and thank you for my subscribers and viewers. You know, in this segment, I'm really excited because I have somebody on that. He's a giant in his industry. Number one. Number two, I've known him for a while. I've known him for a long time. He's like a kind of like a little brother to me in terms of age, and it just, you know, in terms of our engagements. But Aubrey Logan Holland, man, the story is wide. It's complex. There's a lot going on there. I met Aubrey almost I think it's about 15 years we've known each other.
Right around there, like 11, 12, right around there.
Right about 15 years, and I've seen him. His is a true entrepreneur story. I've seen this man grow from developing his own supplements, running his own supplement shop, building up, tragedy hitting. I'm going to let him get into some of that. I don't want to take as far away from him. Building up from tragedy and becoming a billionaire, net worth of $1 billion, a leader in multiple industries. So I want to say thank you, Aubrey, for joining. Thank you for being on the show, and I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to you. Tell us something about yourself, man. You know, let us know, you know, how you came up from a poor shack in, you know, Mississippi, and but you know, how did it all start? Where did it all begin, man? Let the people know, because I want them to be able to see that with focused planning and proper, you know, education and guidance, you can attain what you want to attain.
That's a fact. And I want to start off by saying thank you for having me. Thank you for inviting me on your platform to tell my story, and even more so than to tell my story, to bring inspiration to the world. Because at this point in life, that's all it's about. You know, once you hit a certain level, it's like, you know, all the other numbers you put up on the board are just pluses. But you can continue to do a lot of it. You can continue to bring a lot of inspiration to the world and shine a brighter light on this world that we live in. But yeah, I hail from Rochester, New York, about an hour from Buffalo. I've been residing in Atlanta for the past 15 years. I spent I moved around a lot of southeastern cities growing up. And one of the cities I spent a lot of time in was Abbeville, Louisiana, a little bit in Baton Rouge. My father's family, they have a strong presence there. There's whole parishes that we control and stuff like that. My mother and father just didn't get along. My mother always worked very hard. She had an administrative job at the post office, did very well. So we had a lot of good middle-class trappings, you know, that life could afford you up in the upstate New York area. But I noticed a difference when I would go down and I would visit my father's family side, because I would go down there and this cousin owns 200 or 300 acres. This cousin owns, you know, 6 funeral homes and stuff. And the mindset was different. Like some of them, to be honest with you, they'd be outside like in overalls. They look like a hick, but he's got like 300 acres and he's got 2 or 3 other businesses and nobody controls him, you know. Right. But I would go down there, and there's still to this day, there's 2 parishes that my family controls down there in Louisiana, in Abbeville. And so at the end of the day, I just saw such a big shift, and it was like coming back and being as inquisitive as I was as a child, and that I still am as an adult. I still got a very vivid imagination. I'm crazy enough, and I got enough hustle to bring things to light. But yeah, so
start taking entrepreneurship was kind of in the blood. It's definitely in the family. I mean, so. And, definitely. You know, I just want to throw this point in there where I often say that African Americans, unfortunately, we're given over to a condition rather than a culture. So when you have a culture of entrepreneurship, let's say you're in my case, my family owned a sawmill.
Okay.
And so, you know, we came from that industry, and my grandfather built up a sawmill. My father had entrepreneurial mindset. He took over the sawmill. I myself obviously don't do that business, but I went into IT because that was, you know, germane to myself.
Right.
And so that culture makes you focus and see things in a different way, opposed to just more of a condition or marketing where people say you can be anything you want to be, but you don't have, you know, goals or people around you to help you to develop that mindset and see how it can be done. And it sounds like in terms of Louisiana, that's where your family comes from. And I know a little bit more about the story, but you come out of a culture of entrepreneurship.
Oh yeah, definitely. And that led me to like my very first job I ever had. I was 12 years old. My older brother on my father's side. Well, all my brothers on my father's side, but my oldest brother, he owned a pager and cell phone store in my hometown called Mobile Jams. I worked for him. What that did for me as a young melanated man, it imparted in me early on, like, wait a minute, my first job is working with somebody who looks like me, but then it's like, it's my brother, we're that directly linked. And he taught me a lot about entrepreneurship, how to run a register. But the funny thing is now he calls me and asks me business advice. But
there ain't nothing wrong with that, because you ain't never, you can always learn, right?
Exactly.
Right.
And I started my first business when I was 14. 18. I got working papers actually when I was 14. But anyway, I started my first company when I was 18, Total Control Entertainment, up in Rochester, New York. Was doing smaller. I saw a niche because I went to vocational school for a year, became an electrician. Knew I wasn't gonna do that for 40 years. I just said, okay, let me get some kind of paper behind my name, early in life. And then I saw a niche and I said, wait a minute, in Western New York, there's not many entertainment options for the teen crowd and like the 18 to 21 crowd. You're pretty much ostracized and, you're not able to really go hang out anywhere. So was able to negotiate with some venue owners it's crazy because in the nightclub game and the lounge game, the money is made through the liquor sales. So they're like, well, what are we going to sell? Juice? What are we going to sell? Soda? I said, yeah, you're going to just take a loss in this night in order to get more awareness. I mean, there's a big niche here. I wanted to move on and do bigger things like co-promoting boxing matches with my guy, Roy Eagle, big real estate guy in my hometown. He promotes a lot of professional boxing matches in Rochester. And then I want to do some comedy stuff and things of that nature. But as fate would have it, got into an accident.
So one of my college, so let me give you something I probably haven't told you. I told you a lot of stories, but so one of my college jobs was to be to do personal protection. And so like when promoters like yourself would put on events in Seattle, which is where I went to school in the area of, they hired us to either do security during the event. So things wouldn't get out of hand, because some of these places some of them would be nice, and then some of them would be in like VFWs and different places. And so, they wanted security there. So, if there was different groups of people coming in, there wouldn't be any problems. And then you had the nightclubs, the really more high-end nightclubs. And you're making me think of, a lot of times people don't know is that they bring in girls into these high-end nightclubs. They're just not the girls that are on the street. There's like models or different type of college girls that are brought in. And so I had to do like bodyguard and personal protection work in that regard to, kind of safeguard, sometimes to safeguard these girls from themselves, and, because a lot of times they didn't have the best judgment.
Right.
But they were, but to your point, they were always there designed to get people to come in and and also to buy drinks, right? I mean, to pay the door fee and then to come in and buy drinks, and that's where they made their money in liquor.
Right. Oh yeah, that's exactly where it goes down. That's why you see a lot of restaurants and stuff opening, and it's like they're racing to get that liquor license or that beer or wine license. They're racing to get that because that's what brings the crowd in, and that's where their profits really come from. And understanding that industry early on, I said, okay, all right, I see where the loss leader is. But as fate would have it, I ended up getting into a pretty bad car accident. Was promoting a party up in Niagara Falls, and long story short, it's a huge story behind it. But that sat me down for 2 years, and I was like, well, I went to vocational school in Albany, Georgia, and I would come up to Atlanta on a regular basis, and so I was familiar how Atlanta ran, so and how it gets run and everything. So I said, okay, well, once I'm able to, get back and move around, and and then I get this settlement, I'm going to move to Atlanta. So, because it impacted what I had going on. I had it because the accident was so bad I couldn't even run Total Control Entertainment anymore or work my electrician job. Yeah. So, but after 2 years, I moved here and was able to get back on my feet. Worked for a few companies. Worked in the distribution industry. Worked for a company called Systemax, Global Equipment Company, which is a subsidiary of Systemax. Systemax also owns TigerDirect.com.
Oh, and, yeah, Tiger Direct. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Yeah.
And then after that, I worked there for like maybe 2-3 years. Then I worked at one of Home Depot's distribution centers out in Braselton, Georgia. So I got a chance to see how a big Fortune 500 company, how they operate and how they do their own, control their own distribution, because they distribute products to their own stores. And then with Global, we would sell to companies and individual people. So I had a chance to really see the logistics and distribution industry firsthand, touching products, how they come in, how they get dispersed out. And then if like on the Home Depot side, okay, when these Makita drills come in, or when these, like the year I was working at Home Depot, the year and a half I worked there, that's when a lot of storms are going on, like in Waco, Texas and stuff like that. So we were shipping a lot of generators out. So I still had a chance to see the whole distribution pipeline from manufacturer to distribution company, to the end customer, which was Home Depot stores, to the consumer that comes in and will buy the products. So now the cannabis firm that I co-founded in 2016, Blue Dream Industries LLC, which is based here in Atlanta in the Buckhead Financial District, one of our subsidiaries is Utopia Distributors Incorporated. And one of my co-founders, my best friend, he worked in the natural products industry, like where you and I met when I was running Juices Wild. We used to order products from UNFI and KeHE, two of the biggest natural products distributors. He worked for both of them. So now he's co-founding Blue Dream Industries with me, but he's heading up our Utopia Distributors operations every day. Having that understanding of the distribution industry with drills and tools and stuff like that.
So let me pull you back a little bit, Aubrey, because that's a good segue that I want people to be able to see and understand.
Okay.
You started, a health food shop rather, your own supplement business.
Yes.
You worked in sports and entertainment. You were kind of you'd reached into MMA.
Yes.
With your supplements, and then once again another tragic auto accident kind of took you out of the picture for about a year and a half.
Yeah, about a year, right around there.
About a year and a half. I mean, you recovered from that. And then, you reawaken or you reemerge in the cannabis industry, but, as a consulting, investing, the whole nine. Now, now you're a $1 billion leader in this industry. So, once again, give us a synopsis of how that, migration took place and how you were able to keep modifying, improving, and adjusting as you went to get to where you are.
Definitely. Like right after the time period where I worked for Home Depot, I started, I came on as an equity partner, as a minority stake partner in Juices Wild, in the parent company. And then I just completely just walked away from Home Depot and just was there 100%. And that was 2010. So 2012, the guy that I used to co-own Juices Wild with, he and I and another guy, we decided we were like, wait a minute, we're retailing everybody else's, all these other high-end products. Let's see what it takes to start our own supplement line. And the other guy, he already had something that was brewing, but we came together and we made something really, really nice. I've been dealing with martial arts since I was 12 years old. I'm taking up all kinds of different disciplines. And I used my connections in this sport and understood that, mixed martial arts, professional bull riding, paintball are the three fastest growing sports in America. I don't have that many connections in the other two. I have a lot of connections in MMA. So we used that lane and we attached the Elite Alchemy supplement brand to MMA. And within 3 years, by 2015, we started out sponsoring some local fighters here in Atlanta and the local federation, the National Fighting Championship. At the end of 2014, the National Fighting Championship partnered with Legacy Fighting Championship, which was the fourth biggest MMA federation in the world at that point. And they had a TV deal with Mark Cuban's Access TV network. Hence to say, March 20th, 2015, we were co-sponsoring an internationally televised mixed martial arts fight night that was aired on Mark Cuban's Access TV network. Yamaha and some other very notable companies were some of the co-sponsors. Our logo was on the Florida Octagon right next to Yamaha. We actually ended up getting more camera time than they did too. And it was broadcast to 90 million people globally. And I mean, to have our brand attached to that, and the announcer saying this is brought to you by Elite Alchemy and Yamaha, and people see the imagery, the logo on two of the fighters' trunks that night, and one of them had the fight of the night, and then on their walkout shirts, their walkout hats. Our website almost crashed the next day. We're getting orders from places I've never even been, Guam, Moscow. I mean, it was blowing my mind. I've been to
Power marketing, man.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Because you always look at it like this. Okay, like with State Farm Arena, what's the real return on investment State Farm was paying what, $15 million a year to have naming rights for that arena, or like say FedEx Field, I think where the Redskins play.
Right.
What's the real return on investment there? And I saw that night the return on investment is quite nice. But yeah, been a lover of cannabis since I was 14. I just turned 37 this month, March 3rd to be exact. During the time that you and I met, 2010 to 2015, I wasn't smoking. I just took a little sabbatical. When I was in vocational school, I took a year off of smoking too. But I believe that I always look at it like this: when you love something, you let it go, and if it comes back, it was meant. And I just recognize I love Mary Jane, man. You know, from a consumer standpoint. But then also,
thing, bro.
oh yeah, you know, she make my heart sing. But and just now from being a businessman, understanding like around 2012, I was taking notice, and I was telling my partners, because even the holding company that we had for Elite Alchemy, we were looking at getting into the cannabis game. We were getting samples from some pretty notable companies. We were going to do some CBD offerings at first. As fate would have it, like you said, 2015 was a big year, was on a high note. March was amazing. Then June, I ended up getting to a near fatal car accident. And then all that stuff fell apart. I, kind of got against my will, forced out of both of those companies, but I still walked away. The way our documentation was set up with Elite Alchemy, I walked away with all the intellectual property, which is the most important thing. I'm gonna let everybody know that if you don't have IP, you have nothing.
That is true. That is true.
People talk on these iPhones every day, but do you know that Apple's brand alone is worth $184 billion? People buy stuff from Amazon every day, but do you know Amazon's brand alone is worth $49 billion? Just the brand. That's why it's important to get trademarks. It's important to own patents. It's important to own copyrights, because your next generations will be able to eat off of these creative works. Patents live only on 20 years, but that's why you see companies, they'll come out with a new version. The iPhone, Apple will come out with new versions of the iPhone.
Freshen that patent.
Right. Copyrights live on 70 years beyond the life of the creator. Trademarks live on forever as long as you keep updating every 5 years. So that's a little free game for y'all. And I don't do that much, because normally it's $2,000 an hour to talk to me, 25,000 if I come out to speak for 30 minutes. But that's a little shameless plug.
Give him a taste though, man. Give him a taste.
Definitely. But always wanted to get into real estate. That's something I always wanted to get into. Always wanted to, because I had a lot of knowledge of the entertainment industry from booking and smaller artists and stuff for the teen events and stuff like that. And when I was running Total Control Entertainment, so always knew I wanted to get into that space. Put myself through broadcasting school in 2008 when I first came to Atlanta. So I have a media background. So during the time when I was sitting there on crutches and doped up on pain meds from that car accident in 2015, I was sitting here a lot of times and I was like, man, there's no way this could be the end of my chapter. You know what I mean? And I was heated about the situation, but it just, I
remember, man, you was in some rough shape, man.
Oh yeah. I was, man, I was in, you remember, but I say this, I respect you so much because you've always been a solid guy. Even in a time where I was downtrodden, you still kept it 100, Alan, and I respect that a million.
I appreciate that, man.
Yeah.
It's funny because people always think, I'm like, dude, I'm the same rain, sleet, or snow, 4 seasons, the same cat,
Oh yeah, I know that firsthand.
Yeah. So yeah, but go ahead, man. Go ahead.
Oh yeah. So sitting there, I was just like, okay, all right. Well, I only got X amount of money left. Okay, let me go and figure out who I'm going to partner with. I'm gonna set up a few new companies. This is November of 2015. So then Aubrey Logan Holdings gets established with 2 of my relatives, and then we registered the trademark on Richard Simone Sports and Entertainment Management, and we registered the trademark on Aubrey Property Management. We have other divisions too, like Aubrey Communications, where we provide 800 numbers to small and medium-sized businesses. But that was something I want to do, was have a legacy business. I wanted to have a business that at least that I own with some of my family members, which that ended up coming to fruition. 2016, the beginning of 2016, my father passed away, and he left me and my siblings 4.6 acres and 2 oil wells in Abreville, Louisiana, in Vermillion Parish. And so I'm telling my siblings, like, look, I don't know what y'all gonna do, but my portion of land and oil wells, I'm gonna put in my company's name. So I did an active exchange and moved it around like that. And so we control the oil and gas leases better. 2 years later, my aunt signs over her 19 acres with a 4-bedroom house and a horse stable and like 6 horses there, and it's a small lake. So that's controlled by Aubrey Property Management as well, the Aubrey Property Management division of Aubrey Holdings LLC. So long story short, then I ended up setting up a company called Aubrey Media Group. Aubrey is one of my middle names. Christophe Aubrey, like a little bit of my history, my family's history on my father's side. one of my great uncles, Edmé Valo, was an advisor to the King of France in like the 1750s, going to 1800s. And my great grandfather, that he came to this country, to America, around the time of the Louisiana Purchase from Jacmel, Haiti. Jacmel, everybody talks about Port-au-Prince because it's yeah, because see, Port-au-Prince is the capital city, but Jacmel is the waters there. All commerce happens. He was a merchant, so he took the money he had, because a lot of people know France had to sell Louisiana because when they lost to the Haitians in war. So
Yep.
he
You know
saw
my kids are half Haitian, right?
okay, dope.
Yeah, their mother's Haitian.
Okay,
Yeah.
and he saw inroads, and he came over here, and he ended up acquiring over 1,000 acres of land, opened some general stores. One of my cousins that worked in a general store was like, wait a minute, people are, when they come here and they buy, because there wasn't no Home Depot, and then you didn't, like, we got all these stores now. No. At them days, you went to the general store, you got everything. You got your milk, you got your
everything.
Yeah, you get your hammers, you get your power drills, you get your saws, you get your shoestrings, you get all of that right there. So my cousin said, this is very inefficient, because people have to, people carrying these big old bags. This is before plastic was out. This is just these big old paper bags, and sometimes they have
where you had to hold them joints like this.
Right, then you have to
because you couldn't hold them like that. You had to hold them like that.
Right, and you have to hire the store staff to help you. And so he ended up inventing the first version of the shopping cart. They ended up selling the patent off, which made no sense. But like my father's family, they also controlled the Bank of Gordon, because my father was born in Gordon, Louisiana, and they sold the bank off. But at first I was like, that's crazy as hell. But now I understand sometimes banks take losses and you sell them. But so long story short, having that experience early on, and then seeing some of the more affluent upper crust parts of people in my mother's family, I saw a big comparison. I said that my father's family, some of them, they look like hobos, and they'll walk around with overalls on, like literally with a top, like when them hats on and straw hat on.
Like, talking about. Yeah. I mean,
literally like that.
Right. The country people ain't concerned about looking rich. They're concerned about being rich.
Right. And see, I didn't understand this. To me, even the way they spoke and everything, to me, was just crazy as hell as a child. Like, I'm very impressionable as a child, but to me, it was just crazy coming from the North, right? But fast forward to 2016, when my father passed away, I was conversing with a lot of the elders in the family, and they were like, a lot of the cousins down there and stuff, that, they're so ingrained to only the last 2 or 3 generations of our family, because Valo was one of my father's family's last names. I had to name one of my companies that. Valo International Holdings and Valo Media Group is our main division. And so you can see I'm big into names mean everything. That's why some of my companies, like Clamorgan, came from a book I read in 2008 called The Clamorgans. It was about the mixed race Black people that controlled the commerce in the river, along the rivers between Louisiana and Missouri. And I was like, man, that kind of reminds me of like something like out of my father's family. I'm gonna name one of my companies something with Clamorgan one day. And fast forward to 2015, it became reality, right? And so that's how some of the enterprises came about. And then even with Elite Alchemy, the Moors brought alchemy to Europe, and the Europeans flipped it and turned it into chemistry. So I always believe there's a reason to have a name, importance in a name. Like Blue Dream. Blue Dream is my favorite cannabis strain. So
the word alchemy is al-chem, meaning from chem, from chemic.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And so I just always feel like there's an importance. See, not many melanated people know our family history. I was fortunate enough to really tap in with the elders on my father's side and really get down to the meat and bones of everything, and really get true game and understand the importance of where I come from in this world. But I've always make that come out in business. Like, people say, man, you just go on the board when you command it. Well, this is my lineage. Like in my lineage, Well,
let's tap into that a little bit, where I think there's a misnomer, a disservice of, and I think a lot has to do with popular culture, Hollywood perpetuating this image of African Americans having no family history, having no family background, or you can say people of African descent in general, where when you watch movies, it begins in some slave narrative,
right?
And then there's this break to freedom, and everyone's running down the road in the sunset kind of thing. And it's a disservice because it doesn't give you a point of perspective. I mean, here's the thing about it, right? First of all, we don't want to get too deep into this, but let's just, look at it from a logical standpoint. They weren't just kidnapping anybody during slavery. They kidnapped carpenters, blacksmiths, masons, people who had skills, because you want to be able to have somebody that you can immediately put to work. When they were in the plantations, they ran the plantations. They were the plantations were, you know, basically small cities or small towns that were
Right.
ran by themselves. So these people were highly skillful. And I mean, kind of like your family, me doing my family history, my family has really been free since 1730. We came here around the 1700s. We got our freedom. So really, you know, there was a lot of freemen out there. There was a lot of free African Americans, and we owned a cigar factory. We owned a lot of different businesses. We owned our own land. And not everyone's narrative is what Hollywood or someone wants to project to give a image
Right.
of African Americans in some kind of destitute, disheveled manner, right? Or like you said, I grew up middle class. You grew up middle class. You know, I mean, it doesn't mean that we don't know what it's like to grow up or be around low income housing, because African Americans
Right.
have a unique experience of half your family could be middle class, half of them could be in the hood. And
Right.
you know how to roll with both halves because you come up with both halves. So, you know, you have the family reunions, you know, you got those who are a little more etiquette, you know, have more eloquence and etiquette, and you have some of those who just keeping it a little more real, you know, and we know how to
Right.
balance it. But the narrative is that, you know, and the other narrative that I find insulting is where, you know, African Americans are always the first to do this or the first to do that, you know, which to me kind of always puts you in a starting position like you've never done anything before. And you know, so my family's been in America for 300 years, and it sounds like yours about the same amount of time.
Right.
So if you keep saying I'm the first to do this, that means we ain't done nothing in 300 years. Come on,
Exactly.
man. You know what
Exactly.
I'm saying? Come on. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
mean, and who you putting that up against? So
Right.
I mean, but it's so you know, I understand what you're getting, man, what you're saying, because it's a, what do you call that? A backhanded compliment or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So yeah, but I mean, so yeah, I like to hear those narratives because you need to know your history. When I'm hearing you talk, I'm hearing a man who built a skill set, he multiple skill set, distribution, logistics, marketing, sales. So he studied them, and then he went and got the you might want to say the on the job training, the OJT, and then you applied them. Then you took history, not, you know, your own cultural history, but your family history, and you added that into the mix, because now you have more than just a reason that I want to buy a fancy car, live in a good house,
Right.
live a rap video lifestyle. It's going to allow you to think further than that, because you and I both know the average entertainment career is about 4 to 5 years. You know, so you're looking 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 years out. So you
Right.
have a much wider scope, so it allows you to plan better.
Right.
So,
And another thing, added what you're saying,
uh-huh.
a lot of entertainers do not make the money that people think they
Yeah,
make.
I know that. Yeah.
Yeah. And on, you know, on top of that, a lot of them are controlled. A lot of them don't own the rights to their creative works. If you don't own the rights to your catalog, what are you really doing?
They're
You know,
cataloged, they're masters and mechanicals.
right.
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole other show we got to do, you know, because I have a lot of background in the entertainment industry, and that's a whole nother show we got to do that will shed light that some people would be amazed about. But, you know, once again, it's, you know, you're either a consumer, a seller, or a producer.
Exactly. What my
And where
man
do you
said in Baby
fall?
Boy, my
Say
man said in
again?
Baby Boy, all the balling people, they the sellers. All the broke people, they the buyers. That's a
Yep.
fact.
There you go. So, but yeah, man. So continuing on as you move, how did you? So you know, you took your father's legacy. You know, you had, which is important. A lot of people are like, well, his parents had money. Well, you know what? That's good, because you know he had it. He managed it. He did. You know, he did the right thing. You got educated. You took it over. You started to consolidate it, manage it. You know, and build upon it. And which is what I believe in, something else in the African American community, is that we have a tendency to set our kids up to press reset every time, right? You
Right.
know, I got it, now you got to go out and get yours. Instead
Right.
of, you know, and most people don't realize that 90% of most wealth is inherited. That's, you know, I had to have that conversation with my kids where,
Right.
you know, if you don't have access, a skill set, a unique skill set, then inheritance is typically the fastest way to wealth. You know, so you know those, you need to understand that, opposed to just people telling you dream and go do it, because it really doesn't work that way. But
Definitely.
So with that being said, you consolidated and then you began to expand and grow and reach into new markets. So let's talk about that.
Definitely. And to double back on what you just said, my father was the kind of guy, like, he's telling my brothers and I, well, you got to get your own thing. He didn't want to give us any. I got three older brothers. He didn't want to give us anything. He's like, you got to go make your own mark. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, our grandparents gave you that land, though. Like, what do you, they signed that land over to you in 1993, and then you get monthly oil royalties, and you telling us like you just went out. I mean, he owned some bars before he drove a bus and stuff like that. But then my grandfather backed him on setting up a few bars. But when they signed over the oil royalties, he's like, oh, the hell, these bars, he sold the bars. He's like, I'm getting 5 figures a month from just oil royalties. The hell with doing that work. But so then so that's what I would say, because he and I didn't have the best relationship. But that's what I would say to him, like, well, it got better over time. It got better when I got like between 18 and 21, like during those times, it got really better. But at the end of the day, I learned a lot of morals from him, because I never thought that I would inherit anything. So I just went out and built my own stuff, right? But then it's like, as fate would have it, 2016, that was, and funny thing, that's the first real estate that I've ever owned, was when he passed away. And so just fast forward, and just things that I was passionate about. I've been able to take the charge in. Like, I'm passionate about nutrition. I was able to take the charge and actually generate revenue there, a decent amount of revenue too. Sports and entertainment management. Over the past 12 months, we've landed. I mean, we've had this brand. We registered the trademark and got the trademark back in 2017. But we were doing business before that. But what I'm saying is, over the past 12 months, we've managed to knock out 3 successful music distribution deals, partnered with Sony Music. It's done some amazing campaigns, killing it on that front. And we're doing some tie-ins. We're taking pop culture, and we're, my contacts in pop culture, because of the sports and entertainment management brand, and because cannabis is red hot. It's the number 1 fastest growing industry on the planet. And because, of course, pop culture runs right in line with cannabis, I'm able to put together some sick partnerships between Blue Dream Industries and we have 12 subsidiaries that Blue Dream Industries owns now. And we're starting some.
Where's your focus in cannabis?
Well, the focus is Blue Dream Industries. We focus on 4 things mainly. We focus on investment banking intermediary services, like selling assets for cannabis companies and raising capital. We deal with broker dealers and things of that nature to keep everything compliant. Because you want to have it compliant. You do not want the Security and Exchange Commissions. The Security and Exchange Commission to come knocking on your door. It's not pretty. I've seen people pay hundreds of thousands and millions in fines. Always handle your business the clean way. But
and beat City Hall.
Exactly. So also another thing that we do is we do business development consulting. A lot of people want to come into this industry, but they don't understand interstate laws. They don't understand distribution outside of America. They don't understand the difference from things like this. This is an ancillary product right here. This is what you call an ancillary product. This is a Da Vinci dry herb vaporizer. Da Vinci and PAX have the market cornered on dry herb vaporizers. I grind my bud up, put it in the bottom, and then hit this button right here to turn it on, and then hit these buttons right here to change the temperature. I got it at like 420 degrees right now, and just take a pull. And as loud as the cannabis strains that I smoke, I've been in the World Trade Center and been in an elevator with some investment bankers hitting this, and they couldn't even smell it. I mean, my suit and everything didn't smell like bud. But a lot of people don't understand this is one of the biggest segments of cannabis. I'm an evangelist for intellectual property, but I'm also an evangelist for ancillary products. And no, I do not have any sponsorship with this company. No, none of my Blue Dream nor any of our subsidiaries have equity in this company for now. We don't have any equity in this company for now. But it's just a phenomenal product. I like to say I'm all about high-end high. The consumer of cannabis has changed. In 2016, the number 1 market for THC oil was Silicon Valley. We're talking about people that are making 6 figures to 7 figures on average, right? And these people, they're creative minds. They got to open up their pineal gland, the master gland of your brain. And they do that with, a lot of them do it with psychedelics, which the psychedelics world is booming really big over the past 18 months. Over $250 million has been raised by psychedelics companies. Some of my guys, they started eHave, which is a publicly traded psychedelics company. There's about 5 or 6 of them now. And then you're starting to see some cannabis companies making investments into psychedelics. And we're looking at some investments in eHave and a few other companies right now through our BDI Capital Partners subsidiary.
So is it fair to say that you see cannabis as a health supplement, much like how you had your supplement business? You see this as maybe partly recreational, but I mean, a health supplement, you know, and you're looking at an innovation point of view, because what I'm trying to get to is I think that, you know, being a child of the 70s and the 80s, there's
Mhm.
a certain stigmatism that came out of that era
Right.
with cannabis, right?
Right.
But here we are in 2021, you know, got to get my years right. And, you know, and once again, you know, I'm ignorant about it. You know, I don't partake, you know, not for any other reason, but it's just not my thing. But I
Right.
mean, but we are going to talk about the investment part of it though, because, you
Right.
know, you know, we got to get on that.
Right.
But as that image, I don't know if you want to say changes, modifies, matures,
Oh, it's changing.
you know, and you talked about Silicon Valley, you talked about Main Street, right? How
Hmm.
is Main Street seeing this industry? How did they see it as going away from the Cheech and Chong, I mean, and you know, and don't get me wrong when I say it, because you know, I love his music, Bob Marley,
Hmm.
the different images from that 70s, 80s era.